Hey, what's up? In this video, I'm going to show you how to make $30,000 per month profit with one message, one funnel, and one offer. And I'm going to do it in under 20 minutes. I'm not going to share any slides or anything like that. It's just going to be me and you here. And I'm sure that if you're watching this video, it's probably not the first time that you've looked up a video on how to make more profit in your business or, how to simplify things. And you've probably heard there's tons of people out there, right? They're saying, "Hey, here's my way. It's the best way. You should do it too." And the truth is, there are business models, all all sorts of business models that work, right? You've got successful people across the spectrum doing things completely different ways and finding success with it. But the trick is finding what works for you. And that's what I had to do too. So I'm going to share in this video what's working for me now and what's working for the people that I've worked with and helped generate over $30 million online in just the last few years. Now, think about this. There's really two ways that you can build a business. The first way is you can build your life around your business, right? Your business is at the center and your life is around it, and everything in your personal life kind of comes secondary to your business. And that's what I did before. But the second way is you can build your business around your life. You can look at your life and the lifestyle that you want and then build a business that supports that. And so that's what I do now, and that's what I help my clients do. Now, I've been in the coaching industry for about a decade, a little bit over that. And when I first was getting into the industry, the most important thing to me was money. And I wanted to be able to, support my family and feel successful. And that was a really easy metric, right? Like lots of people want to make lots of money. And so because of that, I was willing to do pretty much anything ethical to be able to do it. And a few years after doing that, if you would have looked at me on the outside, things looked really good. Like I was getting awards. I sold one of my businesses and had an exit. I was leading and helping more people and it looked great. But inside, something was just off. Like I was not fulfilled. I was stressed. I didn't know what to do. And it all culminated in July of 2022 when it felt like for me everything was falling apart. But over the last few years, I created a model for getting more freedom and more fun and more profit for myself and my clients by building business a different way, by doing business a different way. And so I'm going to share with you kind of the four biggest areas that I like to highlight when we talk about my business model called the Contrarian Way. So the first big area is the business model in and of itself, right? The way that you create your business and how you do business is going to determine whether it ends up becoming something that you absolutely love and you're like, I could do this forever and it doesn't even feel like work, or whether it's something that you hate and you're like, I can't wait until I find something else, or just get me out of here, figure out a way to get me out of here. So for me, back in 2014 is kind of when I started in the coaching industry, and I started as a financial coach. And being in that industry, there's a lot of education that I had to do, a lot of networking and talking with other advisors and coaches. And one of the beliefs that I took away from that was the more that you offer people, the more value that you're worth. Like the more things you can do, the more valuable you are. But over time, I started to realize like having all these licenses, having to do all these different types of paperwork, having to know all these different things, like it's so complex and you can't get really good at any one thing. And so I kind of felt out of belief or out of place with that belief that, you have to offer more in order to be of more value. And the other thing is that industry, the financial industry, there's just a ton of red tape. There's a lot that you can't say. And so I felt like I wasn't really able to express myself. And so I ended up selling that business. And my wife and I started as nutrition coaches in a network marketing company, and there were a lot of great people that we met in that. And one of the things that I was taught, and kind of like the patterns that started to develop for me, is that if you want to have success, you have to sacrifice a lot. Like there were nights and weekends and time with family, and financially there was a lot of stuff that we gave up to try and have that success. And it took a really long time for us to get it. But when we finally started gaining some momentum in that business, we had some conflict with the company. The company changed kind of their values. They did some things that weren't in alignment with the way that we would have done things. And so we decided to leave that business. And in 2016, we started a fitness coaching business. And we had a mentor at that time. He was from a different industry. And one of the things he said is, you're starting a brick and mortar business, like you got to go, go, go. You got to grind. And so, in order to get results for your business and have it grow, you got to grind. And so, we did that for a long time. And we learned some hard lessons about ideal clients and that sort of thing. But finally, a few years later, we had our first 5-figure month, and it looked like everything was great until the pandemic hit. And we weren't able to pivot fully online, and our business died. And so, 2020, I started working with a digital marketing agency. And as I got to see what it looked like inside of a little bit bigger company, I started to ask myself, like, maybe I need to build something that's bigger. Maybe bigger equals better. And I started to realize that that wasn't true a few months later. So I was on a leadership meeting, kind of helping this company figure out where they wanted to go because they were always getting stuck at 20 clients. They couldn't break past that and get beyond it and stay there. And I looked at things and I told them, I gave them two pieces of advice. I said, one of your clients, one of your client demographics, they get better results way more often and they take less of your resources. Focus 100% on them. And the second thing I said was, when you do that, make sure you have systems in place because you're going to get a lot of clients really fast. So they implemented that first piece of advice, and within 2 months, they went from 20 clients up to 40, added an additional 400,000 in revenue. But they didn't implement the last part, which was having the systems and processes. And so just a few months later, it led to a whole bunch of employee turnover, bad results for their clients. People were asking for money back, and like the whole thing was on fire. And so I was giving everything that I could to try and support them in this. And July 2022 comes. I'll never forget this. My family, we're in the middle of a construction project. We're trying to finish our basement. We're going to do a home birth, trying to figure out a home loan for that. And 2 weeks from our second born being born, and my mom has a serious health issue, and my mother-in-law has a serious health issue. And I get on a meeting with this agency that I was helping, and they told me that they were cutting my role from the company. And I was so mad. I had given them everything and sacrificed so much, gone above and beyond. I grinded for them, and that's how they were repaying me. They were cutting my role 2 weeks before my son was going to be born, trying to close on a home loan, finish a construction project. I didn't know what to do. I was so mad. I just threw my hands up to God and I said, "Tell me what to do because I have no idea." And that's when I heard, when everything is big, nothing is big. When I looked at my life, I had all these huge things that were happening. And I think of my wife and I, we went on a trip to the Redwoods for our 10-year anniversary, and we're in this massive forest, and all these trees are huge. But when you look at all those trees next to each other, you can't see the tops, right? None of them really look that big because they're all big. And that's kind of like what life was for me. And it raised my threshold and my tolerance for how much I could take. And so I realized, um, you know, bigger's not necessarily better. Like, I need to find a different way. I don't want to hustle. I don't want to grind. I don't want to do all these things. And so as those next couple months came, I decided to start asking some questions. Like, what do I want to do in my business? How do I want to build this thing? And I turned somewhere that I had never turned before for business advice, and that was to the Bible. And I started reading through the Gospels about Jesus and his life and how he interacted with people. And I started to notice this pattern. Everything that he did was countercultural. It was contrarian to the day. When you think about sharing a message at that time, the religious leaders of that day, they were all about exclusion. Like, if you're not one of us, we're going to separate ourselves from you. Jesus, on the other hand, he was all about creating belonging. No matter who he was talking to or how bad they were or what they had done, he made them feel like they belonged, like they were known and loved and valued. So that was the first thing he did. The second thing is, these religious leaders, they were all about fear and control, right? They wanted to control the population. And they talked about laws and rules and all this stuff to be able to control people, and get them to submit. Whereas Jesus, he was more about free will. He was about sharing a message and giving people a chance to put their faith and their belief in something. He wanted to impact their heart, not their mind. So that was the second thing, belief. And the third thing was these religious leaders. They were stifling. They didn't want anybody to pull them down or to rise up to be equal to them. Whereas Jesus, he had more of a growth mindset. He wanted to help transform people's lives, to give them a better way. And so those three things, belong, believe, and become, those are what I distilled into a business model that I call the Contrarian Way. So your business model, that's really the first big area that we focus on. The second one is it gets more into what this Contrarian Way is. So when you think about business, one of the biggest parts of any business is marketing, right? It's client acquisition. And so creating belonging is one of the best ways that you can do that. John Maxwell puts it like this. He said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's why it's so important to help people feel like they belong. There's really two ways that you can approach marketing, right? One of them is hunting, right? You can go out all the time. You can try and, you know, get the sale, get the lead, right? Get somebody's information. And I had done that for a long time, and it was exhausting. But the other way that you can do it, the contrarian way, is by harvesting. You can plant seeds and you can water and you can nurture them. And at the right time, they will grow, they will mature, and they will produce fruit that you will be able to harvest. And that's the other way that you can do your marketing. And so the way that I do that is through what I call a content habitat. It's really just a combination of a social channel that you use, a YouTube channel where you can go, people can go a little bit deeper, and then an email community where people can connect with you and you can share some things in a little bit of a different way. So what I used to do is have all these fragmented messages. Like I would try and say too many different things in my marketing, and it would leave people confused. They would be like, so what exactly do you do? And they didn't really know. Whereas now I have what I call a gospel message. It's a really clear message and direction. So people know what I do, and they can tell right away whether they click with me as a person and as a coach or not. That it creates that sense of belonging. So that's the first part of business, right? Your marketing. So the second piece is your sales. And so Simon Sinek, one of the things that he said that just really stuck with me is the goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Now, if you remember, the way that Jesus approached things is he shared a message and let people choose whether they wanted to believe in it. He gave them room for their free will to exercise that. When you look at how most sales is done today, there's a huge focus on persuasion, right? Like you've probably seen there's tons of stuff out there. There's courses, there's black books, there's people speaking about persuasion and psychology and how to get people to say yes, that kind of thing. The approach that I take now, I used to do that, but the approach that I take now is more about invitation. It's really giving people the respect and dignity that they deserve, knowing that they know enough about their situation that they can make a wise and informed decision. Right? You invite them to the party, and they could say yes or no. And so I do that through the pathway funnel. It's short form content to really connect with people on the front end. Long form content to have them go deeper and get to know me and what I do, what I'm about, that kind of thing. Teach them some things, help shift some beliefs that they might have, and then lastly, with a micro VSL, it's an asset just like this video that helps people go deep. They really get a well-rounded understanding of who you are, what you're about, what your model and your mechanism is about, and then it invites them to go deeper into that relationship. So I used to have lots of different funnels, and it was kind of like this network of weaving paths that were all competing with each other, and it just kind of scattered everybody out, and I couldn't really tell what was working, what wasn't. I didn't have momentum with anything. Whereas now I've got a single path. It's a streamlined funnel that leads right towards one offer that has a very clear outcome. So your sales and helping people believe things, that's a second part of business. And the third part is a transformation piece, right? That's like actually fulfilling on your offer. Now, Tony Robbins says it's not about the goal, it's about growing to become the person that can accomplish that goal. Growing to become the person that can accomplish that goal. Let me take you back to it was probably 2018. My wife and I are in this fitness studio business. We decided to hire a coach. We paid 10 grand to hire a coach who I had seen. He got great results for other people who were in the industry. I wanted to learn directly from him. And when we paid that money, I ended up finding out that I didn't get to work with him. I got to work with one of his coaches. And so I was a little bit frustrated by that, but we decided to go ahead and implement all their systems and everything, anyways. And in the first month, we made all of our money back plus some. But the way that we did that, it didn't align with me. Like it was not in alignment with my values or how I wanted to do business. So we severed that relationship. And the reason I bring that up is there are two ways that most people will look at offer fulfillment. The first way is by delegating it. And that's what this company did. They didn't, this coach didn't work with me one on one. He delegated it to another coach. And that relationship was no longer able to be deepened, right? There wasn't that connection there. But the second way, if you remember, Jesus wanted to help people become someone new, to transform, to have a new life. And so the second way you can approach offer fulfillment is from a discipleship approach, right? Delegation versus discipleship, where you really go deeper. You lock arms with someone, you help them to be able to grow, to be able to think differently and do new things. And so I do that through instead of having what I had before, which was like a whole bunch of different offers. I was just like spreading my results way too thin. I didn't know what was working or not. I couldn't optimize anything. What I use now is what's called an access offer. It's a concentrated focus. It's one really high value offer, but it's got two levels of access, one that's intimate and one that's more scalable. And so that approach allows me to be able to disciple and go deep with people using that access offer. We go back and we look at the business model in general. Just as a reminder, remember, there's two ways that you can build a business. You can have a business run life where your business determines everything that you do in your personal life. Things become complex. You get a big giant team. There's more work. There's more time that you have to put into it. There's lots of stress, and usually there's little profit. Or you can have a life fueled business where your business is built around your life. You feel fulfilled and satisfied, and you're able to have more fun. Things are simple. You make more profit. There's less time and energy that you have to put into it. So we've covered a whole bunch, and I want to stick to what I said from a timing standpoint. There's a lot that I couldn't cover, but I want you to know this. There are lots of ways that you can get to $30,000 per month profit. There's no one right way, but what you need to do is find what works for you. And hopefully this video has given you some ideas about some things that you can implement that would work for you. Now, I think of just a couple stories that come to mind. Laura was a travel blogger, and she was stuck at 10 to 12,000 or so a month. She implemented this Contrarian Way model, and it took her from 10 to 12,000 a month to 76,000 a month at 74% profit. So she's having way more fun and has a lot more freedom in her business. Another one that comes to mind is Brett. He was a he was a homesteader, and Brett, he had hit a plateau in his business, and so we implemented this model for him, and it reignited his funnel, and it turned it back into a seven-figure funnel. He had more clarity, and one of the things he said, I'll never forget. I have a new interest and excitement in my business. Just like so cool to hear. I was working with Kate. She's a business coach for moms, and we were able to help her generate $20,000, almost $20,000 just from her email list in a single month using the same exact strategy. Now, the last one that I'll share with you was with a life coaching company. We implemented this one message, focusing on one message, using one funnel to sell one offer. I shouldn't do three. One message, one funnel, and one offer. And in 1 month, they made over $1 million. And right now, that same funnel is on track to do over 8 figures this year. So you could tell the Contrarian Way, it's thousands of years old, right? I just distilled it down into a specific approach that you can use for your business. It works across a whole bunch of different niches. So if you're interested in learning more about how I do this and how you can do it too, All you got to do is send me a DM on Facebook with the words "the way," and I'll get you all the information. You can decide if it's a fit or not. We don't need to do a sales call or anything like that. So thanks for watching. I hope this video has helped you, and we'll talk soon.